So joining me now is the former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren. Ambassador, thank you very much. I want to stipulate, we were just reporting on the overnight news of the airstrikes and the aid getting in just now, which is not to fail to understand that the war started with a terror attack against civilians, the slaughter, as the term that Tony Blinken used repeatedly in his Friday comments, the slaughter of civilians, an unprecedented invasion of Israel by terrorists. That said, Israel does seem to, according to media reports in Israel, all the media reports, seem to be not just hitting the pause button, but thinking about the goals. Can you clarify, listening to the U.S., listening to other
always good to be with you, Andrea. Always good to be with you, Andrea. We've been in these situations many times before, you and me, unfortunately, tragically. The goal is to rid Gaza of Hamas, destroy Hamas, make sure Hamas cannot return as a governing force, as a terrorist force that's going to threaten Israeli citizens with horrific acts, destroy our deterrence power in the region, because that has been very deeply impaired, and that's very dangerous for the state of Israel, and restore Israel's faith, the people of Israel's faith in our state, which showed many shortcomings in the initial phases of this. So there are many serious, faithful goals at stake here. But you're right in that I believe, and again, I'm not a spokesman for the Israeli government, I believe that we should be having an intimate discussion with our American allies as well as with our Arab allies about the day after. What is our end game here? And I don't think that it's in Israel's interest that Israel be left holding the keys to Gaza. Who's going to take those keys from us? And that steps be made by an international consortium to make sure that a peaceful and fruitful government emerge in Gaza. And I suggest fruitful because the Gaza Strip, in contrast to what's often shown on the news, is actually a very fertile area. It used to produce all the organic vegetables for the state of Israel. It's got a beautiful beachfront. It has tremendous potential if it's not a terrorist state. I think it's also a chance to give the Palestinians a chance to see a different way forward, and not through terror, not through butchery, not through atrocity. That's going to get them nowhere. And it's a tough lesson, but I hope they'll take it, and I hope they'll take this opportunity.
How concerning was it, or maybe it's just transparency, that King Abdullah on Saturday in Cairo at that meeting warned Israel against collective punishment? And he's your closest Arab ally. Absolutely. The Jordanian foreign minister is on his way, or if not already in New York, to speak, I think, very strongly at a Security Council meeting tomorrow.
Well, Jordan is our one of our closest allies. It's certainly a strategic asset, our peace with Jordan. We understand that the king has a very difficult political domestic situation. 70% of his population is Palestinian, and we understand that. So it's not the first time he has been highly critical of us. I think the important thing is that peace arrangement between us and Jordan. And then I go back, I was actually at the signing ceremony back in the 90s with President Clinton and Yitzhak Rabin and King Hussein. A great day that we can maintain that peace. I don't think Israel is looking for collective punishment, though I must say, speaking for the population here, there's a sense that the Palestinian population voted for Hamas, supported Hamas, celebrated Hamas, and indeed even in Judea and Samaria and the West Bank, where there are free elections to be held today, Hamas would win overwhelmingly. So it's not as if it's entirely free of some type implication here. And many Israelis feel that this is a battle not just between Israel and Hamas, but between peoples. But having said that, I don't think it's our interest as a democratic Jewish state. I don't think it's our interest long term in terms of our international standing not to provide this humanitarian aid, because our basic goal at the end of the day is not just to be humane, but it's also to give time and space for our soldiers to do what they have to do, which is uprooting Hamas. If there's international pressure on Israel, if there's accusations that we're being inhumane, that will constrict that time and pace. And I think that we need it, and we have to restore our security. We have to restore our deterrent power, and we have to restore this crucial relationship between the people of Israel and the state of Israel.
As you know, foreign affairs columnist Tom Friedman, who has a very influential voice, wrote in the New York Times on Sunday I believe that if Israel rushes headlong into Gaza now to destroy Hamas and does so without expressing a clear commitment to seek a two-state solution with the Palestinian Authority and end Jewish settlements deep in the West Bank, it will be making a grave mistake that will be devastating for Israeli interests and American interests. Do you agree that a restatement of the commitment to a two-state solution is a necessary component of whatever is done?
I don't quite follow Tom's reasoning here, and I got to be honest, with all due respect to him, and that is that there's sort of a conventional wisdom that we hear that this war has occurred because there was no two-state solution, and we forget that Hamas was the principal opponent of a two-state solution. And I mentioned earlier in your interview that I go way back. I was an advisor to the Rabin government in the early 1990s, and when we began to make progress toward peace with the Palestinians, it was Hamas that came out and bombed everybody, killed a close family member of mine. It was Hamas who, taking over the Gaza Strip in 2007, killed all the Palestinians who supported peace. He literally threw them off the roof. So, that's one factor. You can have a two-state solution. It's not going to affect Hamas at all. It's actually going to bring Hamas, if it's possible, to make them even more beastly, is it possible. And then having said that, again, I mentioned before that Hamas would win an open election in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority there, is in the 18th year of his 4-year term because he won't stand up against Hamas in the West Bank. So what if we had a two-state solution and it turned into another Gaza within a day or two? And that's what many, many Israelis fear right now. I do think, having said all that we need a political horizon for the Palestinians. We have to give them a sense of the future. We have to commit to addressing the problem and not ignoring the problem, and thinking creatively about the ways we can make progress, given the fact that Hamas right now is very, very popular and we can jeopardize our state. But I don't think we can ignore the problem. I think we have to address it. And one of the big questions we're going to have to address when this is over, when the smoke clears, is should the Palestinian Authority have some kind of role in post-Hamas Gaza? And there will be many people in Israel who say, listen, what happened last time was the Palestinian Authority, even with large-scale American military backing, was unable to withstand Hamas. So where is that going to leave us if the PA, the Palestinian Authority, is there? These are legitimate questions, but they have to be addressed now and addressed in a very serious way. And I think for our interest, but also because the Biden administration wants to hear our end game, as it were.
And just very briefly, Secretary Blinken addressed this. How concerned is Israel about Hezbollah in the north?
Very concerned. And I have to put my, full disclosure. I've been very vocal in the Israeli press, starting already 2 weeks ago, about whether we should reconsider our intention to invade Gaza at this time. Hamas is not going anywhere. It's trapped. We can continue to hit it from the air, the sea, ground. Hezbollah represents a threat which is about 15 times bigger than Hamas. They have 150,000 rockets, which are heavier. They're longer range. They're more accurate. They have a terrorist force that has been massacring Syrians for a decade. It's a serious, serious threat that maybe we cannot live with this threat indefinitely. Now, knowing what Hamas can do to our citizens, maybe we should address the Hezbollah threat first and then move to Gaza. Apparently, I wasn't particularly out of the box in talking about this because the defense ministry raised this possibility with the government. The Biden administration pushed back on it. I understand why. There's two very large American fleets off the coast of Lebanon, and I don't think the president wants to get dragged into that type of conflict. And the fear was that if Hezbollah starts firing those 150,000 rockets at us, and even our most advanced anti-ballistic systems wouldn't be able to withstand like 6,000 to 6,000 rockets a day, Andrew. That's the estimate that America could get dragged in. We are indebted to the United States at this point. We can defend ourselves, but at a much higher price if America wasn't there. And I think we have to take America's interests into account.
Well, Michael Oren, there's a lot packed in there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrea. As always.